Okay, hello and welcome back to Biohacking with Brittany. This is the Her Stack series. I am your host, Brittany Ford, and I am a registered holistic nutritionist, women's longevity practitioner, and focusing a lot on longevity and peptides for women. This series that I'm doing this summer is so interesting. It's all about creating the complete stack or the complete protocol for certain health conditions and issues and problems that we're having. And I have done quite a few different topics already. So everything from body composition to skin to energy, and even I did perimenopause. I will be doing a menopause episode soon. And today we are doing blood sugar, and I'm really excited about this. So, this episode is a big one. I'm going to be getting into so much information and everything from understanding the hormones that are involved in blood sugar, why it's important for women, and prediabetes type 1 to type 4 diabetes, by the way, four types, not just two types. And we're going to be talking about nutrition, lifestyle, biohacks, supplements, and peptides for blood sugar management and optimal blood sugar levels. This is a really, 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 really important discussion. And there will be a lot of information given here. Everything that I say, everything that any products or anything that I recommend will be in the show notes, and it's on my website for you to find easily. So don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. I do work with clients one-on-one. I've had several women that I have worked with this week. And honestly, the blood sugar conversation comes up again and again and again. And so I really wanted to dial in this episode to help everybody understand what is actually happening on a cellular level and what we can do about it, because this is arguably something that every single person can struggle with. And that's not true for a lot of the other health conditions or things that we cover on this show. But blood sugar actually doesn't matter your gender necessarily, it doesn't matter your age. It really can have an impact on you. And I'm going to talk about my own personal experience with this as well as we kind of dive into these different issues and lab work and things like that as well. So yeah, take notes. If you do want to work together, I'll link it in the show notes. It's easily found on my website. I do free 15-minute calls with everybody, and these are a really great way for us to get to know each other, figure out if my approach works for you. And then I do an initial consultation. So essentially you'll fill out your intake form. You'll send me all of your lab work. I do a full review. And then on the call, we will do a full analysis of you, of like kind of everything, honestly, we cover in these episodes, right? Like nutrition, lifestyle, sleep, stress management, exercise, peptides, supplements, medication, your family history, things like that. And then I put together a full protocol personalized for you. And yes, it does include peptides, of course, which peptides to take, how much, when to take them, how much bacteriostatic water to mix it with, how long you should be on it for, when you should see effects, how it impacts your goals, how it impacts medications and supplements that you're on, and really how it can get you from A to B, right? And that is the whole point of that. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can easily go book that anytime, and I would love to be able to help you. All right, so let's dive in right away. Without further ado, I want to talk about, oh my gosh, where do we even start? Let's start with the big picture before we get into the different levers here with the signs and the examples and the optimal ranges for all of that. So basically, when it comes to blood sugar, we're starting high level. What this means is that when you eat food, your blood sugar, the sugar in your blood, goes up in response to the food, the stimulus that you're eating. Your body sends out a hormone called insulin, and that insulin, the goal is to take that sugar out of the blood and put it away. And then your sugar level in your blood comes back down. That's like literally in the most simplistic way to put it. Okay. Now, the catch is there are different things that can happen in this entire play of hormones that can cause issues. A large, fast increase in your blood sugar will cause a large, big increase in insulin. But this also means that there will be a huge crash. And that crash can lead to things like cravings, brain fog, and fat storage. So, really, throughout this entire episode, the goal is not to not raise your blood sugar because that's not possible, right? Like you can't just have a flatlined blood sugar 24/7, but it's to keep it small and steady. We're not talking about a zero carb lifestyle here. That's not realistic, and it's definitely not something that I recommend to women. We want something that is small and steady, not flatlined. So, two words that you're going to hear a lot in this episode is the glucose and the insulin. Glucose is the sugar in your blood. This is like the fuel. This is what all your cells use. This is what we use for energy. One of the fuels that we use for energy. And then insulin is the hormone that stores it. That's like the delivery truck, right? Everything else is just keeping this glucose steady and keeping insulin low. Okay, so that is like big picture, very simple terms. And you need to know that. By the way, like this is one of the episodes, I should have said this earlier. I kind of did, but this is one of the episodes that I think all of my clients should listen to and actually will probably send to everybody because blood sugar impacts so many other aspects of your health. It impacts your longevity, it impacts your hormones, your relationship with perimenopause and menopause and how that reacts and how that feels in your body. Impacts your fertility, pregnancy, absolutely, and preconception and postpartum and how you heal from that entire journey of motherhood. It also impacts everything, like shows up in your body composition, your skin, your energy, your sleep. Like it is arguably like one of the biggest root causes we see when we think about health issues. And a lot of the health issue root causes, in my opinion, are things like inflammation and, blood sugar. And then if we even go up from that, it could be stress, right? So when we look at, oh, I'm having these breakouts or, oh, I'm struggling to sleep, is it actually the sleep or the skin that's the issue? Or is it something more high level like this? And so blood sugar management is definitely one of these high level health concerns and issues we really need to tackle because it trickles down into everything. Okay. So lever number one, lever. I don't know why I always say lever. I think it's the Canadian in me. Anyway, so what happens here is what I really want to just like talk about the signs and the examples and the optimal ranges for these different issues here. So glucose is this first one. Now, the spike of glucose, how high and how fast this sugar rises. It is not that you eat a carb and then it raises really quickly. It's how high your blood sugar jumped when you did eat that carb. So, there's different examples you can look at for this. A gentle hill versus a cliff. Oatmeal on an empty stomach is like a cliff, right? Like your empty stomach, you are fasting, and then you have something like oatmeal, which has so many carbohydrates in it, is going to raise your blood sugar, your glucose, very high. The same oatmeal paired with eggs, and I'm going to get into this in the nutrition aspect, but the same oatmeal paired with eggs or with a protein shake is going to be more like a hill. And this is the same with any type of food in this way, right? A healthy smoothie bowl, yeah, it can be like banana, mango, granola, and honey. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting all this fruit. So this must be so healthy. And if you look at places like typical Bali or Costa Rica, and they have all of these like beautiful acai smoothie bowls, and they're all tropical and whatnot. The reality is actually it's got tons of sugar in it. It's just a type of sugar. And this is still leading to a massive spike in your blood sugar, especially when you don't pair it with anything to slow it down. So signs that your blood sugar and your glucose is off here is your energy crash an hour or two after eating. How many mothers listening to this episode have seen this with their kids? You might give your kid a granola bar or puffs or cereal or crackers, and they get so excited, they get hyper, they suddenly have so much energy, and then they crash within an hour. And the crash looks like tantrums, irritability, harder to process emotions, don't want to do anything, saying no all the time, like not listening. And that is the full blood sugar crash in that moment. Same thing happens with adults, right? So you can go out for lunch, you can have, again, an acai bowl as an example, and you can feel really good. And with an hour when you're back at your desk, you are crashing on energy because there's no blood sugar management involved in that decision. You didn't do anything to reduce how much your glucose is hopping up in that moment. Sleepy after meals is a big one too. Shaky or irritable if your meal is late or you haven't eaten for a while. And then always hungry again, really, really fast. So with this glucose level, and I am going to talk more about labs in a bit here, and I'm also going to be talking about CGMs as well. The glucose levels, right? You can get your fasting glucose tested. And after a meal, I mean, this is a little different. This is not fasting. After a meal, you want it under 140 milligrams per deciliter. Ideally, honestly, under 120. You want it back to this baseline that you're tracking within 2 to 3 hours. The next lever here, so that's just the glucose, right? Like that's just the blood sugar we're talking about that spikes after you eat. The next lever here is insulin, and this is the storage and fat hormone. And this is the one that matters so much, so much. So insulin is the hormone that clears the sugar out of your blood. It is also your main fat storage hormone. When it's high, your fat burning is switched off. So let's just visualize this for a second. So insulin is like a delivery truck, right? Every single spike sends out the truck. This is why steady blood sugar and not just calories is the real lever for body fat. Lower the spikes, lower the insulin, and your body can finally reach for fat. So 2 real examples here to kind of break this down more. So 2 women eat the same amount of calories, okay? The one grazing on crackers and sweets all day keeps insulin high and cannot lose the belly fat. The one eating protein-forward meals with gaps between them lets insulin drop and leans out. So it's the same amount of calories, it's just different insulin. Your signs that this is off for you is stubborn belly fat that won't move no matter what, even if you're working out. Weight that will not move on a good diet, like whole foods, right? Like what you might think might be a good diet. Constant snacking, it's a big one. And energy dips between meals. So your optimal range here, this is for your fasting insulin, and this is measured when you wake up. Obviously fasting, right? Like you're not eating. You want it between 2 to 5 and under 6 at that outside, right? So most labs will call 20 normal, and honestly, that's just not optimal. What's so interesting here is I am actually right now looking at getting my blood work done again. I'm having a very difficult time getting it done in Canada. And I had a company, well, SciFox, who I've talked about before. I'm trying to do their full ultimate 360 panel. And so they send me this, it's launched again in Canada. And I'm like, okay, great, let me do this. And I look at all the biomarkers that it includes, and it does not include fasting glucose and fasting insulin. I sent them an email. I was like, look, I'm fine to get all these other 50 biomarkers tested. Yes, I want my HbA1c tested, of course, in relation to this. However, I need to know where my fasting glucose stands and where my fasting insulin stands. And I'm going to talk about this in a second, because often what we see is the fasting glucose might be in normal ranges, but the fasting insulin is trending high. And that means that we are on the trajectory for not being able to handle how much sugar we are intaking. And we are not actually metabolizing, and we're not actually dealing with it properly. And then that over time will increase the HbA1c and can lead to prediabetes and diabetes down the road, right? And so when you actually are thinking about your metabolism, when you are running labs and you are getting tested, no matter what country you are in, please advocate for yourself to get your fasting glucose and fasting insulin tested. Knowing those results is going to show you the exact picture of what is happening in your body instead of just one metric and you actually not knowing, okay, where am I stuck? Am I stuck with very high glucose or is my glucose normal? And I'm actually just stuck with very high insulin, right? Those are two different things. So we need the full picture. And I'm just saying this because I'm literally going through this right now. The lever three, insulin resistance. And I want to break down exactly what insulin resistance means because it's a little confusing in the terminology. And so this is like the slow drift almost every single person misses. So when your cells stop answering to the insulin, your body just makes more and more of it to force the sugar in. So let me break that down for a second. You eat food, your blood sugar is raised. The sugar is swimming around in your blood. In order for that sugar to get into your cells, it has to go through the hormone insulin. What happens is that your cells can stop responding to that insulin. So the hormone's there, it's knocking on the door and saying, hey, let my sugar in, let my sugar in. I have all this sugar in my blood. Push it into the cells. And the cells can be like, no, we have enough. I'm good. I don't want it. I'm not going to respond to you anymore. And so then your body creates more and more and more of that insulin hormone. Now, this can build for years before your glucose test will ever flag it. And that is why you need to get everything tested. Don't be waiting 5 years from now when you get your results back and you're low-key pre-diabetic, right? You want to be looking at your picture right now. You need to know your information so that you know your baseline and where you're at. High insulin, right, the hormone that lets it in from the blood into the cells, with a still normal glucose is the early warning sign. And standard labs skip this so often. So a real life example here. The woman who's fasting glucose is fine at 90. So her doctor says, oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You're all good. But her fasting insulin is 18. And so she's quietly insulin resistant, right? And we just learned what insulin resistance means. It means that the cells are resistant to the insulin that is coming and knocking out the door. So she's gaining weight and she's heading towards prediabetes and nobody checked her insulin levels. So how would she know? But she probably knows something's off, right? Because she's gaining weight or her weight isn't moving. She doesn't feel good. She probably has cravings, she crashes, energy dips, etc., right? So you have to check the whole picture. Now, signs that your insulin is off: belly fat, skin tags, dark velvety patches on the neck, in your armpits, in your groin, sugar cravings, and afternoon fatigue. For a lot of women, this exact insulin resistance is the root cause of PMOS, which used to be PCOS. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So your optimal range here, and now this is interesting. There's something called the HOMA-IR. It's like an acronym. And essentially this is something that you want under 1.0, under 1.5 is fine, and over 2 means there is insulin resistance. It's basically a quick calculation from your fasting glucose and your fasting insulin, and you can just even put that in online and figure it out. But it will basically say, hey, you're insulin resistant or you're not, or you have it or you don't. The next lever here that relates to all of this is glycation. This is the blood sugar that actually ages you. And of course, we have to talk about this when we talk about longevity. So when there is too much sugar in your blood, it sticks to proteins in your body and stiffens them, including the collagen in your skin. And that is why people who talk about healthy skin, even when I talk about it, or you go to dermatologists or anything like skin related, they say cut the sugar because it's literally aging your skin. Every time you, and that sucks, by the way, and I totally agree with you, but that sucks. Every time you eat sugar, it's aging you because that sugar in your blood is sticking to the proteins and stiffening them, and it's stiffening the collagen, and that's not good. So it's literally caramelizing you from the inside. And by the way, and I will get more into this in the nutrition aspect, but when I say sugar, like let's just be super, super clear here. I do not mean white table sugar only. I mean basically anything that's sweet. Yeah, like actually though, including fruit, including maple syrup, including honey, which are both high on the glycemic index, which is basically an index that looks at how much sugar raises your blood sugar levels. Carbohydrates, right? Any type of carbohydrates because they're broken down into sugar in the body, which includes alcohol as well, by the way. So sugar is just like a broad term because that's basically what everything's broken down to in the body. But I don't necessarily just mean white table sugar. And so when you hear that, I know a lot of you listening are like, oh my gosh, I'm actually having way more sugar in my life than I like to admit. And so it sucks to hear that it's aging you, but it is. And so we really want to think about, okay, how much can I take? What does my lab say? What is normal for me? Am I dealing with some of these symptoms that show insulin is off, blood sugar is off? If so, I need to cut back at least until I get everything sorted, and then I can start to bring things back in a very healthy way. So signs that this is off for you, like signs that you're having a lot of glycation, is dull, sagging skin, crepey skin. Like, you know, when people get like crepey necks, it's like kind of hard to describe, but if you see it, you would know. This is ahead of your age. Slow healing skin. This is a big one. Like if you cut yourself or you have a bruise and it lasts for weeks. And on labs, a rising HbA. I'll talk about that in a second. So this is like also in relation to the way that we cook our food and our meats. So the browning on a seared steak is glycation. That's basically searing it. You're taking the protein in there. There's the sugar that's being added to it. And you don't want that happening, that same reaction happening on the inside of your skin and your arteries. That's just like a visualization. Real examples here, two women the same age, one with steady blood sugar and one who lives on spikes up and down. 10 years later, the spiky one has stiffer, duller, more lined skin, and the other one doesn't. Same age, different glycation. With HbA1c, and this is a test that thankfully is done pretty often, this is your 3-month average blood sugar levels. So you get it done, and that is a picture of the last 3 months. This is in a percentage, and the lower the better. So under 5.4% is optimal. 5.7 to 6.4 is pre-diabetes. And 6.5 and up is diabetes. The lowest mine has ever been was 4.9. And mine rose, and it's normal for it to rise during pregnancy. Mine was high during pregnancy, and I think it hit 5.1, maybe 5.2. And I think it was high during the first 3 months of postpartum as well. And then it dropped back down. So this is so, so important for you. Thankfully, there's a lot you can do to improve this score, but it is really important to get it done. The next lever that is impacted here is cortisol. And we have to talk about stress and sugar and their relationship to each other. So the simple version is your stress hormone cortisol tells your liver to dump sugar into your blood for a fight you never physically have. So stress raises blood sugar with no food involved. So that's very interesting, right? Because not only is everything we eat have an impact on our blood sugar, but it's also our lifestyle. It's literally our stress, our mental stress and our physical stress. Now, we don't want to have no stress because some stress is good. It's just too much stress is the problem. So you could have a stressful morning, right? You're going, doing so many things, and this can spike your blood sugar just like a donut without you even eating the donut. A bad night of sleep does the same thing. You wake up with higher glucose. Real examples, the woman eating perfectly clean who could not get her morning glucose down, that's stress because she's running on 4 hours of sleep, maybe a nervous system that's stuck in overdrive. I see this all the time with women I work with. Like majority of the women I work with are in overdrive, are in fight or flight 24/7. And it's never the food, it's all of the other things that are going on in their lives and potentially trauma and things that they have not healed from before or stressful life events that they need to let go of and mentally, emotionally, psychologically heal from and let release from their body. So signs that this is off is wired but tired. I've been there many times. 3 a.m. wake ups if you're always waking up at the same time every morning. Belly weight that came on during a stressful season. Maybe there was an event that happened. You gained weight afterwards and you haven't been able to lose the weight. Cravings that spike under stress. It's very interesting. And feeling shaky when you skip a meal. This one, there's no single hormone number. Like you definitely can get your cortisol tested, but it's a range, right? You test in the morning, you do multiple tests throughout the day, and then you take a look at everything. And you want to be aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That is one of the biggest things you can do to help with this. Morning fasting glucose still in the 70 to 90 range, even during a stressful week. And the last lever that, comes into play, especially for women, is our hormones, our sex hormones. Estrogen and progesterone change how well your body handles sugar and how they move all month and again in perimenopause. A man can eat the same lunch every single day and get the same reading, and women can't. So that's really annoying. That's really annoying, but we can understand it and do something about it, okay? So estrogen generally helps insulin sensitivity. So when it falls in the second half of your cycle and in perimenopause, blood sugar gets harder to control. Let's just pause here for a second. Let's fully understand this. So estrogen is higher in the first half of your cycle, and then it drops after you ovulate before your period. In that first half of your cycle, it helps insulin sensitivity, meaning it helps your cells be more sensitive to the insulin that's knocking on the door and saying, hey, let me in, which is a good thing. That's what we want, right? We want to bring that blood sugar out through insulin, out of the blood, through into the cells. So we want to be insulin sensitive. When it falls in the second half of your cycle, when progesterone rises, blood sugar gets harder to control. And same in perimenopause. Perimenopause is a decade of time where your cycles range in length, your hormones are unbalanced, and there is a lot going on there until menopause. Menopause, your estrogen is low, very low. And so it's even harder at menopause. So this is where hormone replacement therapy would come in, right? And I am not a prescribing doctor who can prescribe hormones. What I can tell you is that when that time of my life comes, when I enter perimenopause, I will 100% be taking bioidentical hormones, absolutely. And I will also be putting my husband on testosterone as well. Thank goodness. Moving from a state of, oh, hormones are bad, they could cause cancer, hormone therapy shouldn't be played around with, et cetera, et cetera. Testosterone is only for people who want to be super jacked in the gym and it's cheating and all of this nonsense, to a place where hormone replacement therapy, the black box warnings have now been taken off all of it. It has become very, very common. A lot of people are taking hormones. A lot of women are taking testosterone. So it's not just estrogen and progesterone that women are taking. They're taking multiple things under the guidance of somebody who is, obviously professionally trained. And so I think there is this beautiful thing that I'm seeing now of it's normal for people to be on bioidentical hormones, and that is great. I think that's awesome. And I think it is such a beautiful tool that can help us feel better, have better blood sugar management, why would we not use it if we have access to it? And I think this is going to actually be the same narrative as peptides. I think right now peptides are like, oh my gosh, you're taking them. Wow, what about this company? What about certifications of analysis? What about testing? What about legal issues? Oh my gosh, the lack of research, some is research, some doesn't, etc. Within 5 years, that's going to be completely gone and it will be as normal as people taking hormones. Progesterone is the one that rises in the second half of our cycle, the week before your period. Progesterone is the one that makes you feel calm, relaxed, but also very like grounded and in your body and way more introverted. Like you don't want to do as many things. You don't want to go out and you just kind of want to be inside and in yourself. So when that rises, that tends to raise blood sugar and cravings. And we see this, right? Like right before your period comes, you're craving something sweet and salty, ice cream, whatever it might be. That premenstrual sugar hunt is real and it's hormonal and it's not weak. And I've been there and I get it. So the woman who handles carbs beautifully in week 1 of her cycle and spikes on the exact same meal in the week before her period, nothing's wrong with her. This is just your hormones playing out. And so this is actually a very good question because if this is the case, right? Like thinking about this, thinking about the fact that you metabolize blood sugar better in the first half of your cycle, when do you get tested? Do you get tested in the period, in the first half when you are metabolizing blood sugar better? Or do you get tested in the second half when you're metabolizing it not so well? Or you do both. But obviously that's not possible for most people because it's pretty expensive and it's out of pocket, right? So that's probably not the best thing. I mean, if you don't have access to a CGM, which I'm going to get to, what you could do, what I would probably do is, oh man, what would I want to know? Honestly, I would probably want to know the worst part. Like I'd probably want to get tested in my second half on my cycle for this because I would rather know the worst possible metabolizing hormone situation picture that I'm looking at than know the best and just kind of be a little blindsided on how bad the insulin and the blood glucose and the HbA1c could get. It actually wouldn't impact HbA1c too much, but the blood glucose and the insulin, it would. So signs that this is off for you is premenstrual cravings and crashes, like you just want all the chocolate before your period, worse energy and mood the week before your period. Yes, I have that. A lot of people have that. And yeah, I journal so much now. So I'm actually so aware of my emotions in relation to this. And then in perimenopause, suddenly not being able to eat the way you once did is a very, very big flag that something is going on hormonally for you. This perimenopausal turn is like the falling estrogen is why so many women hit their 40s and their old approaches stop working. Perimenopause typically starts 40, 41, and it's not laziness. It's not a lack of willpower. It is that your insulin sensitivity is dropping and your body is changing. Your hormonal picture is changing. So your approach needs to change. And this is exactly when you bring in peptides and you bring in hormone replacement therapy. And obviously on top of exercise, lifestyle, nutrition, supplements, all the foundations. So it's really important for us to go through this because I want you to understand the hormones that are at play here and that for women, it is not a willpower problem. Sometimes that is an aspect of it, of course, but it's not the only thing that's happening here. There are hormones that are impacting how your blood sugar is being handled, and there is a lot you can do about it. Let's talk about the diabetes spectrum and prediabetes and types 1 to 4. Now, diabetes is not a one thing, right? A spectrum. And knowing where you're on it is very, very powerful. Most women watching it and watching this are somewhere on the early end and do not know it. So let's talk about prediabetes. This is the reversible warning sign. So what this is, blood sugar is higher than ideal, but you are not diabetic. The body's check engine light. This is your body saying, look, I don't like the direction we're heading. We need to do something about it now. The numbers on this, fasting glucose is 100 to 125, or your HbA1c is 5.7 to 6.4. Signs, often none, right? And that is the danger. So maybe there's like fatigue, cravings, belly fat, dark skin patches, but it's often missed. And often you can excuse it as something else. The good news is that this is the most reversible stage out of everything that I'm about to talk about. So you can turn this around and it's not permanent. Roughly 1 in 3 adults have prediabetes, and most actually don't know it. 1 diabetes is the autoimmune one. So this is the immune system attacking and destroying the cells that make insulin. So that your body makes very little insulin or none. This is not caused by lifestyle, and it is not reversible. This is the childhood one that people know of, right? The kid one. It's often diagnosed very, very young. And it is a slower adult onset version can happen called LADA or LADA, sometimes nicknamed type 1.5, but gets misread as type 2 in grown women. That's a very specific case. Most of the time with type 1, again, it's autoimmune, child related. If you are listening to this episode, you would know right now if you already had it. Signs of this: fast weight loss, extreme thirst, constant urination, fatigue. This is a medical condition. I mean, these are all medical conditions, but this is very serious, especially when it comes to children. They need insulin. Their body is destroying the cells that make insulin. It's not something to take lightly, and they need to be under doctor supervision. This is not one that you can biohack, right? Like, this is a serious condition. Insulin. Type 2 is the insulin resistance one. Okay. Now, type 2 used to be called adult onset diabetes, but now they don't call it that anymore because kids are getting type 2, which is sad to hear. So what this is exactly what I've been describing. The cells stop answering to the insulin, and the body overproduces this insulin for years because the body's like, hello, we can't have this blood sugar and we can't have the sugar in our blood. Let's get out of here. And it produces more and more and more and more. Then the insulin making cells burn out and they basically give up. There comes a time where they can't handle it anymore. 90 to 95% of diabetes is this type. And this is driven by lifestyle, partially genetics, and it's largely reversible in the early years. It actually is, right? So this is the one that you can target through all sorts of things, peptides, everything like that, in the early years. Signs of this: belly fat, fatigue, cravings, dark skin patches, slow healing, frequent urination as it progresses. The numbers on this: fasting glucose 126 or 7.0 moles per liter or higher, and an HbA1c of 6.5% or higher. That is type 2 diabetes. Type 3, this one is so interesting. So researchers use type 3 diabetes for the brain becoming insulin resistant. And it is strongly linked to Alzheimer's. When brain cells cannot use glucose well, they starve. So this is all to do with the brain, type 3. And why this matters: steady blood sugar is your brain's insurance. What protects your metabolism protects your memory. Some call Alzheimer's diabetes of the brain for exactly this reason. So if you're hearing this and you know somebody who has Alzheimer's, I would, if I were you, research this. Look at their diet, get their blood work done. Where do they stand on the signs of, or on the sides of blood glucose, fasting insulin, and HbA1c? Get the full picture. Signs of this are brain fog and memory slips that track with blood sugar, sharper thinking when your glucose is steady. And doctors also use, this type 3C for diabetes from pancreas damage. But I really want to highlight this because type 3 diabetes is becoming more and more common. People are realizing this link, and more women get Alzheimer's, I can never say it, than men. And so the question becomes, if you're able to manage your blood sugar long term or for your life, does that decrease your chance of getting Alzheimer's? Arguably, or theoretically, by what we understand right now, yeah, it would. If this is something that runs in your family, this is something you should be looking at and not taking lightly. No matter what age you are, if this is something that's been in your family history, you should be getting your blood work tested. And you should be learning about blood glucose and your blood sugar and how to manage it. Type 4. Now, this one, I'm not going to lie with you guys. This stopped me in my tracks when I read about this. My thoughts on it. So, this is a newer research term for age-related insulin resistance in lean people. You can be thin on the outside and metabolically unwell on the inside. And this is driven by inflammation in the fat you do have, not by being overweight. This is talking about the skinny fat. The skinny fat woman with a normal weight, a soft midsection, and a quietly high insulin level. Thin is not the same as metabolically healthy. You can look fine and still need to do this work. This is also why slim women will get PMOS. Now, the reason that this stopped me in my tracks is I had a PCOS, PMOS scare about, 5 years ago. And I did not match up with the traditional picture of what that looks like. At the time, we did not understand this idea of, type 4 diabetes, lean PCOS, PMOS, none of that. But looking at this now, I question, is this something that I was dealing with? Or is this something I am dealing with? And it makes me really second guess everything. And that's how it should be. The more we research, the more we learn. Don't be ignorant about your health. It can very much be like, oh, actually, this might explain what's going on for me. Because some of these things here make sense to me. I'm lean. I have a soft midsection. And the quietly high insulin is so interesting because how high? And I need to look back, honestly, I need to go through and look back on all my blood work from the last 5-7 years and actually see my fasting insulin levels. But to be honest, I even looked just briefly before this episode, and the last 2 times, or the last time they didn't even test for it, which is so annoying because it would indicate that there is a blood sugar metabolism issue going on. So if you're listening to this and you kind of check off some of those boxes that I just said, please go get your blood sugar fully checked. Because this type 4 diabetes, we don't know a lot about right now. It's brand new. I have never, ever, ever heard anyone say these words, type 4 diabetes, ever, until I was doing research for this episode. But we have heard of skinny fat women with the normal weight and the soft midsection and things like that. Now, what's interesting here, though, and why I don't necessarily know if I would qualify for this. So the signs of it is like a normal weight, but low muscle. I don't have a low muscle mass. And I know this. I just did a DEXA scan. I have really good muscle for my age. So I know that that's not me. Soft belly. Yeah. I've always had a soft belly. I mean, my energy comes up and down. I don't know. I don't necessarily think I have chronic low energy at all. And high fasting insulin. Again, I have to check that. So I want to do more research on this. And it's so interesting because I actually want to do a full PCOS, PMOS episode. And I'm so glad I haven't yet, because now I need to bring all of this into that episode so that I can fully research this and understand this and bring the accurate information to you guys. So that if you're listening to this and you're like, that might be me, I can tell you, hey, what does the HbA1c look like? What does your HSCRP look like, which is your inflammation biomarker, if this is something that you have? I've always had very low inflammation. So I don't know if this actually makes sense for me. So I'm putting a pin in this and I'm going to swing back to this when I do my full episode on PMOS so I can give you guys the full amount of information. But I did want to include it today because I want you to go and research this if this is sticking out to you right now. Gestational diabetes, and this is insulin resistance in pregnancy. It's its own type, and it raises future type 2 risk. Now, when it comes to pregnancy, I refused almost all tests for multiple reasons. And I've talked about it on my pregnancy episodes. And if we have another baby, when we have another baby, I will be doing the same thing. You do the test, right? They make you drink the whatever orange juice or orange drink, whatever it is, and they test for it. I think it's a whole wad of garbage, and I've talked about it before, and I did not do that, and I full out refused to do it. So you can go listen to those episodes and I will explain why. And I'm sure if I have another baby in the next year or two, whatever, I will explain it again. Diabetes is insulin resistance in pregnancy, and it does raise future type 2 risk. Okay. Signs that your blood sugar is off, and this is the symptom checklist. And I'm going to kind of, what's high, what's low, where you might fit in this. So, signs of spikes and crashes, the typical roller coaster. So, you have an energy crash an hour or two after eating. You're sleepy right after meals, especially carbohydrate ones. You're shaky, irritable, or anxious if a meal runs late. That is hangry. If you say, I am someone who gets hangry, that's not good. That's not something you want. That's not good. Waking up at 3 a.m. and not falling back asleep. Intense sugar cravings, especially afternoon and in the evening. Now, signs of chronically high sugar and insulin. Belly fat that will not move on a clean diet. Skin tags and dark velvety patches on the neck or armpits. Adult acne, dull or aging skin. Constant thirst. Frequent urination. Blurry vision when it is advanced. And fatigue that no amount of coffee will fix. Signs that it could be PMOS, just because we talked about it. Irregular, missing, or very long menstrual cycles. Acne along the jaw and chin. Extra hair on the face, chin, and belly. Thinning hair on the scalp. Stubborn weight, and trouble getting pregnant. So there's a lot more to unpack with that, and that's where I'll leave it. Let's talk about labs, and I briefly have mentioned them, but I'm just going to put them all here in one place, and CGMs. So test, don't guess. If you're in Canada, Naya Health and SciFox are who I'm recommending right now. If you're in the States, go get Function Health. I am so jealous, okay? I'm literally talking to Function Health right now, and I was like, I go to the States at least twice a year. Can I get a membership? I will go to your clinic in LA, in Vegas, when I'm going to be there in December. Please, I just want to get Function Health done. If you're in the States, please, do you understand how lucky you are to have access to something like Function Health? I am so jealous. I would be doing it every quarter if I lived there. Or if they I'm still trying to figure it out. It is over 160 biomarkers. The price point is incredible. They have over 2,000 clinics in the entire, you can do the test in over 2,000 clinics throughout the country. Just do it. Take your money. Don't buy clothes this month. Don't go out for food, and go and get your Function Health test done. I wish I had an affiliate link. I wish I had a discount code. I don't right now. I'm trying to partner with them. They're giving me a lot of schlep, and it's annoying, but I still love what they do. I recommend them to every single client I have in the States, by the way. Every single one. I say, go get Function done. Come back to me when you have your results. It is hands down the best test that you can do. It includes everything, literally everything. So much so, I had a client this week say to me, she went to the testing center and they said they were doing 50 to 60 function health tests a day at this one Quest center, I guess, that she was going to. And so much so that they're opening up a second location only for function health tests because it's that popular. So, right now, well, not right now, finish listening to this episode and then go and get it done. Get it for your parents, get it for your spouse, get it for your kids, everybody, and get your data and get informed. Clients send me their data. I interpret all of it. We map it out to their peptides, all of their recommendations, 100%. If you get your results back and you're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, I don't know what to do, that's what I'm here for. So you could absolutely send them to me and I would love to walk through them with you. Now, the panel on what to get, and these are the optimal ranges, right? Not normal. We want optimal. Fasting insulin, the most important early biomarker almost nobody runs, is optimal from 2 to 5 or under 6. Fasting glucose, 70 to 85 milligrams or 3.9 to 4.7 moles per liter. Normal is up to 99, but 90s is kind of a drift. HbA1c, we want you under 5.4%. Your insulin resistance score, the HOMA-IR, is under 1.0. To HDL ratio, this is a sneaky insulin resistance marker from a standard lipid panel. Optimal is 1.5. And your HSCRP, this is your inflammation biomarker. Optimal is under 1.0. The last time I had mine done, mine was 0.7. It's the lowest I've ever had it. And by the way, that was at like, I don't even know, 14 months postpartum. And it was super high during pregnancy and it was super high early postpartum. So just know that. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that pregnancy and early postpartum was a inflammatory condition on the body. So if you're in those stages right now and you get this done, don't be alarmed because that's normal. Vitamin D is also tied to insulin sensitivity. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. It's not a vitamin. And optimal is 40 to 60. Please take your vitamin D, guys. The amount of blood work that people send me and their vitamin D is low. It's so easy to fix. It's like literally, if we're talking about low-hanging fruit, vitamin D, optimal vitamin D levels, so easy. Get a vitamin D3 supplement. Ideally, it's in a liquid form. Or ideally, get some sunshine, and there you go. 5 IUs to 10 IUs a day. Yes, that's more than what it says on the bottle. Most of us need that. Go from there. If you suspect further hormonal issues like PMOS, which we've been talking about, please get your testosterone done, your DHEAS, your LH, your FSH, and your SHBG. This is all going to be linked in the show notes, so don't worry. High insulin drives up your androgens, like your testosterone, and we don't want it too high for women. And it actually pushes your SHBG down. So CGMs, I have to talk about CGMs for a second here. So CGMs are a game changer. A continuous glucose monitor. It is a small sensor and you put it in your arm and it shows your blood sugar in real time on your phone for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You can see your own spikes from your own food and also your stress and your lifestyle. And nothing changes behavior like watching the line jump after the food you thought was healthy. So this is fantastic. If you are, that's above and beyond just lab work, get a CGM. So, and watch it, use your phone, do the whole thing. Watch for small bumps, a quick return to baseline, and most of your day should space between 70 and 110. Test your usual meals, a workout, stressful day, bad night of sleep, use it. If you don't have a CGM, you can do a $10 finger prick glucometer, and test 1 hour after meals. And this teaches you a lot for almost nothing. 2 weeks on a CGM is incredible and will teach you so much about what is happening in your life. So how to get them. If you're in Canada, it's tough. Of course it's tough. It's very frustrating. Like Levels is honestly the best one in the US. And not even that is like their app is not available on the App Store in Canada. So you actually can't use it at all. So first of all, levels, and how this works if you do have access to it is you wear the CGM, the level app sits on top of your glucose data and scores every single meal from 1 to 10 based on how much it spiked you. Scores high, a bowl of white rice craters to a 3. It shows your whole day as one glucose line with your meals laid over it. So cause and effect jumps right out and it syncs with Apple Health. Very, very helpful. And Aura and Whoop tie in as well for stress, sleep, and everything. Memberships run usually $300 to $2,000 a year, depending on the tier. If you are, levels is US and UK only, and that's so annoying that they're in the UK and not in Canada, but does not operate in Canada, and it provisions its own sensors. So you cannot just link a Canadian pharmacy sensor to the levels app, unfortunately. For Canada, the Canadian version is a fraction of the price. So what you would do is you would buy a Freestyle Libre, is that how you say it? At any pharmacy, Shoppers, Costco, London Drugs, or Amazon. You do not need a prescription to buy a CGM in Canada. You can just go and buy it. Out of pocket, no problems. It runs for about $100 to $115 per sensor and lasts 14 to 15 days. And then you have to connect it to an app that is used in Canada. So use the Abbott's free Libre Link app for your real-time line and log your meals yourself. That's it. So it's very manual, but you kind of would get the same thing as levels without the membership and the US address. I'm actually going to probably do this because I really want to know, and I'll see if I can get my husband to do it too, Ryan, because I feel like it would be very useful for us. So test your usual meals, a workout, a stressful day, and your week before your period, and let the line coach you. Definitely something to look into. Okay, now we are going to dive into what to actually do to lower your blood sugar, lower your insulin, and manage your blood sugar glucose levels. Nutrition is the biggest lever by far. This is the most important thing that you can do here. Not low carb, not joyless, not skip everything. We just need to learn certain healthy habits in order to reduce the spike. So first of all, number 1, eat in order. So vegetables and fiber first, and then protein and fat, and then carbs last. Same plate, same food, far smaller spike. The number 1 free move. So easy to do. I used to do this. I should do it again. You start with a salad for dinner, and then you bring out the meat or the fish, the protein and the fat, and then the carbohydrates last. I even have started doing this with my son. He's 2 now, and instead of like putting all of the food on his plate right away, even for breakfast, like I'll put the eggs first, and then we add the fruit, and then we add the sourdough bread last or something like that. Protein first and lots. I say this on every single episode. Aim for at least 30 grams per meal. Honestly, that's not really enough. I would say aim for 45 to 60 grams per meal and about 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of ideal body weight. If you want to be 150 pounds, you should be eating 150 grams of protein and front loading it in the morning. The more protein you have at breakfast, the better. Start the day savory, right? Like people do savory breakfasts, much healthier than sweet. And high protein, not sweet. A protein breakfast beats a smoothie bowl every single time. So this is kind of the mishmash that I do. A piece of sourdough, and after my workout, I will do a coffee protein shake. And that's all before 11 a.m. And so if we add up the protein, so 2 eggs, that's 14 grams of protein. Each egg is about 7 grams of protein. Then sourdough maybe has a few grams in it. So let's say 14, 17 grams of protein. And then I have my protein shake, and the protein powder I'm currently using is 30 grams of protein. So even still, guys, that's only 47 grams of protein. I mean, I could add in collagen. I mean, sure, maybe there's a few grams of protein in the nut milk. Okay, so maybe we're up to 50. So yeah, so that's a 50-gram breakfast of protein. That's pretty good. And my goal right now is I'm trying to hit 140 grams of protein. So, I mean, the way that I would increase that is honestly to make it super easy, I would just add more protein powder and I would increase it to 2 scoops of protein or 1.5 scoops of protein, maybe one more egg is how I would increase it. You have to be eating enough protein. I want you to be eating so much protein that you think, wow, am I a bodybuilder? Like it should be that when you are making your dinner plate, right? You're putting like a steak and a half, and then you're keeping the same size plate, and then you add everything else to whatever space is left, right? Like a palm and a half full of protein, or 2 palms worth of animal protein on your plate. Don't be shy, and then reduce the carbohydrates. This will help so much. Point number 3, never eat a carb naked, as they say. Always wrap it in fat, protein, or fiber. And this is very typical in the nutrition space. What you see is like apple with nut butter, toast with eggs, rice with chicken and vegetables. The carb is not the problem, the naked carb is. When you add protein and fat to a carbohydrate, instead of it spiking your blood sugar, it will now be a much slower, steadier spike. It also will keep you full for longer. So that protein and that fat is very satiating, and you'll be able to enjoy that and not be hungry later on. It's mandatory. It's mandatory. Okay. Please do not eat carbs on their own. There's always a way to add fat or protein to it. The 4th is fiber and vinegar, the easy blunters. So you can add, 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. 1 tablespoon of vinegar and water before a carby meal genuinely actually does help lower the blood sugar spike. So a tablespoon of vinegar and water, a lot of people do apple cider vinegar, makes sense. And a lot of people even do this stuff when they wake up in the morning. And that's awesome for that. The last one is move treats to after a meal. And we can obviously see this with dessert, right? Like dessert typically comes after dinner. Dessert on an empty stomach is a straight spike, right? Like if you take your kids to have ice cream in the afternoon and they had lunch 2 hours ago, like it's crazy, right? Like the sugar, the energy, it's a lot. But taking that and on top of a full dinner of animal protein and healthy fat is going to be much less. I would be very cautious. This goes out to all the parents listening. I would be very cautious about dessert, the way that you frame that, and how often you bring that into your family. If you're the mom listening to this and you still have young kids, you have so much control right now on setting healthy standards for your family. You're the one who gets to decide how often you have dessert. My personal belief is like dessert should be occasional. It is not something that happens every single night. Absolutely not. Not for myself, not for my kid, not for my husband, not for anybody that I know. It is maybe a Saturday night thing. Maybe it's a birthday party, right? Like in my opinion, as a nutritionist, it should be something that's occasional. What happens when we make it a routine that kids and even ourselves are having dessert every night, we get addicted to it. And we get psychologically addicted, right? Like we know, okay, I'm having this dinner and then ice cream's coming afterwards. Okay, I'm ready for my ice cream. And then breaking that pattern is so hard. And breaking that pattern is incredibly hard for children because you're suddenly changing it. So why? Why don't they suddenly get the dessert that you said that they were going to get? And I want to be so honest with you. When I was pregnant, I was having ice cream so often every single night. And then postpartum, I was having ice cream bars, and it was really hard for me to break that cycle. And I would look forward to it. And this is why I know this, because I was addicted and it was like my go-to, and I was looking forward to it, I would have a long day with baby, a long day with work, very minimal support. And then I would be looking forward to having my ice cream bar at the end of the day. But we, like Ryan and I, were doing that every night. And it got to a point where we're like, oh, this is bad. we need to stop. Now, mind you, yes, it was coconut ice cream. It had fat in it. Great. And it was pre-portioned. So it was ice cream bar. It wasn't like adding scoops to a bowl where, you could have as much as you want. So that also psychologically helped. However, I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how healthy you are or unhealthy. Dessert every night, I just don't think makes sense for your health or longevity at all. So occasionally, maybe it's a weekend thing, especially if you have children. Yeah, be very, very careful because they become so addicted very easily. And what is quietly spiking you here, and this is part of the reason that I moved away from alcohol. Alcohol crashes your blood sugar overnight and wrecks your sleep. And this spikes your blood sugar the next day. It also stalls fat burning while your liver deals with it. I read a stat once that said after you drink alcohol, you stop burning body fat for like up to 24 hours after you've stopped drinking the alcohol. So if you are on some sort of body composition journey, personally, I don't see how alcohol can be involved in that because of what it does to your blood sugar and stalling your fat loss as well. If you have it occasionally, sure, but yeah, I just celebrated 1,000 days of being sober. And so my recommendation is to just not drink alcohol at all. So go straight to the liver. This does not fill you up. Every single person knows this. If you've ever drank a glass of orange juice, it's like pure sugar. Drives your fatty liver and insulin resistance. It has no fiber in it. It is literally purified. Whole fruit has the fiber in it, and this really helps to slow down the blood sugar spike. So with my kid, with Callahan, I don't do any, yeah, I don't do any juice, to be honest. Maybe he's still too young. He's two, but like, I don't know if I've ever given him juice. One time we were out and we had no water and I had to buy something for him. And I found this like little juice box and I took it to the cashier and I said, okay, can you put this in a cup and add half water and ice? And so they diluted it by 50%. And that's what I did because I wasn't going to give him a whole little juice box of apple juice. Now, people hear that and they might think, oh my gosh, who cares? It's just one time. But like, have you looked at the back of that apple juice box? And it's like, what, 15 grams of sugar? For a 2-year-old that doesn't even weigh 30 pounds yet? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. That is so much sugar. So no, not happening, right? There's always a way to do this. When you go out and you go to Starbucks, what are you ordering? Are you adding the syrups in? Are you adding the sugar-free syrups in? Sugar-free does not mean it does not spike your blood sugar, by the way. And this is so important. And this actually, I mean, I could go down a whole tangent. When we use things like sugar alcohols or Splenda or xylitol or sucrose, like any of those other ones, you might think, oh, it says 0 grams of sugar. Okay, so this is not spiking my blood sugar. However, again, that just means it's got 0 grams of the actual like sugar ingredient in there. That doesn't mean that that processed sugar alcohol or whatever it is isn't spiking your blood sugar. And there was actually a study done on Smart Sweets. You guys probably know that brand where they came out with like sugar-free gummies and sugar-free this and that, right? And you eat them and they're so sweet. They're so sweet. And you're like, okay, this doesn't have sugar in it. Yeah, I feel energized. I'm addicted to these and I am going to crash soon. They came out with a study and showed that how those gummies were still spiking blood sugar really badly. Even though it says 0 grams of sugar on them, I forget what the sugar is in it. It might be, I think it is a sugar alcohol. So don't be fooled by sugar-free this and that. If it's sweet in any form, it's likely not great for your blood sugar levels. I would argue that, yeah, like to be honest, it's not at all. How would it be? And that sucks to hear, right? Because sweet things are so good. So when you go to Starbucks, what do you order? You order a coconut latte, which again is sweet, I guess, because it has the coconut milk and coconuts are sweet. but there's a lot of fat in there, so that's reducing the blood sugar spike. So use coconut milk and don't add any syrup. Don't give me this, oh, I'm going to order the sugar-free vanilla syrup. No, that's still spiking your blood sugar. Don't put honey in there. Honey has a glycemic index of, what was it, 58? That's very high. That's very high. Table sugar is 65. And maple syrup is, what was it, 54? So no. Oat milk will spike your blood sugar way higher, right? There's no fat. It's a little bit of protein, but not a lot. You could do whole milk. You could do cow milk. So cow milk will definitely have protein in it. So you have that working for you and it will have fat in it. However, lactose is a sugar. And so, lactose is a protein, sorry, that you have to be aware of. So all this to say is when you're eating out and anytime anything tastes sweet to you, please think like, okay, how do I add fat or protein to this or fiber in order to reduce how this is going to spike my blood sugar? And that applies to every single thing you put in your mouth. They still nudge insulin. They feed your cravings and they cause gut issues. They are better than sugar, but they are not free. Even stevia, monk fruit, allulose, it's the same thing. Like they're much better, right? I'm not saying they're not better, but they are not just a write-off. What I do right now, and I'm actually getting more strict about it after I've been like seeing what it's been doing to Callahan's behavior and even with myself. And a lot of paleo cooking will include maple syrup or coconut sugar as the sweetener in the muffins and things that you make. But again, like that blood sugar spike, the glycemic index there is still very high. And so, yes, it fits into the paleo category of the diet, but that doesn't mean that it's actually good for your hormones and your weight and your body composition and your waist and your energy and all of these other things. So really, if you are going to sweeten something and you're baking, the best would be whole foods. And so what this looks like is like a mashed banana, a grated apple, a grated carrot, maybe dates, like fresh dates cut up, made into date paste. And that is because when you use whole fruit, you are getting all of the fiber in there, which is slowing down the blood sugar response. You are also getting all of the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, everything that is in that piece of fruit. Maple syrup and honey are processed, right? Now, honey is interesting because you can get raw honey and you can get unpasteurized honey. Now, obviously, this isn't processed as much, but again, it's still very sweet and still spikes your blood sugar. It is very nutrient dense though. It's great for your immune system. So you have to just be very aware of these things. Late night eating is a big one here. You are more insulin resistant at night. So what does that mean? Your cells at nighttime are more resistant to insulin than you are during the day, which is so interesting. I guess it's very much related to our circadian rhythm and our not biological clocks, like how, our circadian rhythm works and when we have energy during the day and when we don't. So the same meal at 9 p.m. is actually going to spike you higher than it would at 6 p.m. Close the kitchen earlier. Close it. Right? The earlier the dinner, arguably the better, but you can't have it too early because you don't want to go to bed hungry because then you could wake up in the middle of the night and eat something. So dinner around 6:30. After dinner, super protein and fat-filled dinner. Close the kitchen for everybody. If you do nothing else, eat in order, eat a lot of protein, never leave a carb naked. And this is the most important things above any single peptide that you could possibly have. Okay, pillar number 2. Now, nutrition was the biggest one here, guys, to give you because it really will change your life and change the game for you. But lifestyle matters too. So really great ways that you can handle glucose better. Number 1, walk after your meals. And it's funny how like embedded in our culture this actually is, or in different cultures around the world. Just 10 to 15 minutes of easy walking after dinner, your muscles will pull sugar straight out of your blood into the muscles that you're using. Even 2 to 5 minutes helps. Walk after your biggest meal every day. 7 to 10,000 steps every single day is the goal. Okay. So other things like worth noting here, just while I'm thinking about this out loud, cleaning up the kitchen is actually great after you eat, right? You're being active, you're washing dishes, you're walking back and forth, you're cleaning the counters, cleaning the table, you're being active. That's great. Try to add on a walk as well. So what we do now is we have dinner, we go for a walk, and we clean up when we get home. It's more important to get that walk in right away than it is to do it after you are cleaning and after a clean kitchen, because who cares when the kitchen's clean? I don't care. It doesn't matter. No one's watching. It'll be clean before we go to bed. That's all that matters. Build muscle. I'm like a broken record at this point. Go lift heavy things and put them back down again. Muscle, at least 3 times a week. Muscle is your biggest sugar sink, where blood sugar goes to be stored and burned. More muscle, bigger tank, better insulin sensitivity all day long. This is the number one recommendation for long-term for women for blood sugar. Number one. Yes, make all these changes to your diet. Yes, walk after the meals. But if you can build muscle, it compounds. That muscle is going to burn that sugar the next time you eat, the next time you eat, the next time you eat. More and more muscle. You are not going to get bulky. It is very difficult for women to get bulky. Extremely difficult. No one listening to me on this podcast is going to get bulky or is bulky. That is for extreme athletes who dedicate hours and hours and hours of time every single week to lifting, and that's not us. We are here for longevity, and part of that longevity picture, yes, is building muscle. Sleep 7 to 9 hours. One bad night measurably raises next day blood sugar and cravings. I've talked about this. I did a full episode on sleep. When you sleep badly, the next day you eat so much more. Like, I feel this when I sleep less than 6 hours, less than 5 hours. Man, the next day I am scarfing down food. I'm eating way more. I'm hungry way more. I have no idea how many meals I've had. Like, I'm just constantly craving food for the energy. Number 4, manage stress, because cortisol is sugar. This is like the hard one to swallow, the hard pill to swallow, right? Like breath work, walks, sunlight, saying no. A stressed nervous system keeps glucose high no matter how clean you eat. And this is when the CGM is actually great, right? Like, you can see, oh, I am in fight or flight all the time. Shoot, I got to do something about that, because it's pushing me into the pre-diabetic stage or the diabetic stage. And I don't want that. Or it's causing me not to be able to lose the weight that I want to lose, or have no energy. I can't show up for my family, etc., etc. Cold and heat. A cold plunge or a cold shower, 1 to 3 minutes. Don't overdo this, but you can do it a couple times a week. And recruits calorie burning brown fat. Sauna, 15 to 20 minutes, 2 to 4 times a week. This really supports metabolic health. I try to do 20 minutes, and I read in there. It's hard. I'm tired, but I do it. And I have a sauna, and I was just saying this to a client this week. It is the best investment we have made in the last 2 years. Especially postpartum, when I felt like, I didn't have a lot that I could do for my health, and I wasn't feeling strong, and I was mentally tired. The sauna was very, very healing for me. If you do nothing else, walk after your meals. It's free. Just do it. Take your kids, take your dog, whatever. Go for a walk. And lift heavy 3 times a week. All right. Supplements. Supplements are super important. You guys all know that I'm a huge believer in supplements. First one is magnesium. Magnesium glycinate, 200 to 400 milligrams at night. Most women are low in magnesium. And yes, you can get your magnesium levels tested now. This improves insulin sensitivity and sleep in one move. Right now, I'm taking the wee natal magnesium, but I also have the Bioptimizers one. You can use my discount code biohackingbrittany, And this is great because it has 7 different types of magnesium in it. It's full spectrum. And I think it's 500 milligrams of elemental magnesium in it, which is incredible. So this is the magnesium I've used for like 3 years. I've literally put every single family member on it and I love them. Like, that's great. So magnesium, yes. I also think magnesium is one of the supplements I recommend for almost every single thing that I talk about on this show. I think I just read it got increased that we now think that magnesium is involved in over 600 processes in the body, and almost every single person is deficient in it. So if you're going to order one supplement after listening to this, it should be magnesium. Next up is inositol, 2 to 4 grams per day with a little D-chiro in it, a 40-to-1 ratio. Now, this is very technical, but this can be great. And they don't even know I'm going to mention them on the show, but I actually started using this new supplement. It's called OVI, like OVII. And they have this supplement that is targeted towards metabolism for women. And it's great. I really like it. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. I'm going to see if my discount code with them is live. You guys should order that. And I'm actually going to order that for my mom now that I'm thinking about this too, because it's literally designed for metabolism for women. And it's got inositol in it. I'm actually going to bring up the ingredients because sometimes I like to do things live and off the cuff. So let's do this so you guys can hear about it. All right. Let's look at these ingredients. Here we go. Yeah, exactly. So inositol blend, 2 grams. Turmeric's awesome for inflammation. Acyl L-carnitine, magnesium, vitamin D, glutathione, biotin. Wow, amazing. This is really great for long-term metabolic health. It helps with healthy weight and quieting food noise. It increases energy, reduces fatigue and brain fog, hormonal fluctuations, and mood shifts. It's awesome for PMOS and anything related to that, perimenopause and menopause, and any obviously metabolic health issues. This one's incredible. So, like I said, I just started using this. It's called OV Metabolic Sync, and it supports your cycle regularity, reduced cravings, less bloat, and steady energy and mood. Helps manage post-meal blood glucose response, supporting fewer spikes and crashes and less food noise. Incredible, guys. This is actually incredible to see. Anytime people come out with like supplements that are designed for women health issues, I'm just obsessed with it because finally we are getting targeted support and not just generic things thrown at us without, the proper studies behind it or the proper understanding of how to take it, how we take supplements and everything that we do. So I will link that in the show notes for you guys. Again, it's called OV, like OVII Metabolic Sync. I will get my discount code for you. It's a powder. You actually just take it every day with your water. And it says, even for best results, take before your largest meal of the day. And that's how you know they're legit, know what they're talking about, because they're saying essentially take these ingredients like the inositol at 2 grams, take it before your meal, and it's going to reduce the blood sugar spike from that meal. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So the inositol has strong evidence for insulin sensitivity. And it's actually the single most studied supplement for PMOS specifically because of its helping with the mood and the cycle regularity. Berberine as well, 500 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a day. And, this is often called nature's metformin. Real data does show that this lowers blood sugar as well. Clean minerals and electrolytes. So absolutely. I'm literally, if you're watching on camera, I'm drinking electrolytes. This one is the Baja Gold Salt electrolytes. They're brand new. They just came out. It's called Tidal. Very cool name. It's Biohacking Brittany. I love Baja Gold. They're an incredible company. I think I talk about them a lot on the show, but very clean electrolytes, no garbage in there. Very much recommend. But steady minerals blunt the cravings that come from being under mineralized and stop you mistaking thirst for a sugar craving, which is a very good point. Is like when you're craving something, are you craving that food or are you just thirsty? So it's worth exploring. Baja Gold is a clean mineral rich option. You can even do that. Their electrolytes do have different flavors, so check that out if that's something that you prefer. There are other things here. This supports glucose uptake and can blunt sugar cravings, alpha lipoic acid, omega-3s, vitamin D. If you do nothing else and you're listening to this and blood sugar is a concern for you, what I would do is I would order OV, to be honest, just out of like full transparency, because it's literally a supplement designed for women for metabolism and blood sugar control. Like, I don't know what would be better. So I would do that. And then on top of that, I would probably do magnesium. Even though OV has a little bit of magnesium in it, I would still get additional magnesium and I would take it at night. Because I think we could always use more magnesium. Most people are low, and it also helps with stress. And then, vitamin D, if you do your blood panel and your vitamin D comes back, obviously you need to be taking a vitamin D supplement as well. Okay, peptides. Oh my gosh, why everyone messages me all the time. These little things that everyone loves. The amount of people who message me about peptides is wild. And that's fine because I talk about them and I'm here to help. So, there's a lot to say about peptides. First of all, peptides do not all move blood sugar in the same direction. Some lower it and some raise it. And knowing which and which is the whole point in the whole game. So that is what we need to talk about. First of all, let's talk about growth hormone. Let's start here. Okay. Growth hormone is something that starts to decline, we think roughly late 20s, early 30s. And it declines every single decade. And growth hormone is related to many, many things. Your muscles, your other hormones, your energy, your repair, your healing, and building. It's involved in a lot. And so as it declines over time, we got different symptoms and signs that are related to that decline. So growth hormone and any peptide that raises growth hormone tends to raise your blood sugar and not lower it. So let's kind of break this down and what this means for you. Growth hormone is the repair and build signal. To fuel that, it tells your liver to release sugar and makes your cells temporarily ignore insulin so sugar stays available. So remember, it's like a little, I don't know, there's like a little doorman, whatever we want to call it, right? We have the blood, we have the sugar in the blood, we have the insulin, who's the gatekeeper, and then we have the other side where the cells are. What this is saying is that it's making your cells temporarily ignore the doorman and ignore the insulin. And so that sugar is then in your blood and stays there. That is literally insulin resistance on purpose, short term. Okay. Now, before you freak out, hear me out. This is part of why your blood sugar runs higher earlier in the morning. That is your natural overnight growth hormone pulse, known as the dawn phenomenon. And people who abuse high dose growth hormone, like some bodybuilders, can actually give themselves diabetes and the bloated growth hormone gut. So I'm not recommending anyone go on growth hormone. That's not what I'm about. But we need to understand the effects that can happen here. So the growth hormone peptides, the ones that impact that entire cascade, the ones people take for sleep, recovery, and body composition, can actually nudge your fasting glucose up. So there's a few that do this. Let's talk about it. CJC 1295 with ipamorelin. This is the popular pair. A lot of people do this. I've recommended this to people. And this is the popular pair for sleep and body composition. Ipamorelin is about 200 to 300 micrograms here. And CJC 1295 is about 100 micrograms at night on an empty stomach. Watch your morning glucose if you're on this stack for a long period of time. Sermorelin, same thing here, same family, same caution, about 200 to 500 micrograms at night. And then same with tesamorelin. So tesamorelin is about 1 to 2 milligrams a day. It's actually used to cut belly and visceral fat, but it can raise blood sugar and IGF-1, so you need to monitor it. MK6677, an oral growth hormone booster you can take for 10 to 25 milligrams a day, and it is your clearest offender. It reliably raises blood sugar and appetite. Be careful here, it's probably not something you want to touch. The nuance though, so that just to be fair, modest pulsed doses plus the better sleep and muscle they create can even this out. But the rule stands. If you're running growth hormone peptides, watch your glucose because they push it up. So essentially when somebody will take, tesamorelin to reduce belly fat or CJC 1295 with ipamorelin for body composition and sleep, that could actually long-term improve your blood glucose, your HbA1c, and your fasting insulin levels because you're sleeping better, you have less body fat, and you're being able to put on muscle. And those all impact all of these hormones that we're talking about. It's just that during the time that you're running that peptide, it could increase that blood glucose level. So you need to think about that and be aware. Here for this is the AOD 9604. So AOD 9604 is a tiny fragment of growth hormone. It's just the fat burning piece snipped out of growth hormone. So it triggers fat breakdown without the blood sugar raising. So you basically get the benefits here without the glucose downside. The dosing is about 300 micrograms a day, subcutaneous, fasted in the morning. I'm actually taking this one right now. I love this one for women who are in their fertility years, who are not in perimenopause or menopause at all. I love this for postpartum because it doesn't impact growth hormone, which, arguably if you're under 40, I don't know, personally, I feel like there's better ways. If body composition is the only goal, there's better ways that you can do that without touching growth hormone yet and the whole cascade of that. Obviously, there are impacts of that like we see with glucose. And I think that, it's just one of the ones that's a bit more gentle for body fat loss. And so that's why I also like it for times like postpartum and things like that versus like something like Ozempic. So the GLP-1s, and we are going to talk about this because obviously these are super important. GLP-1 is a hormone your own gut actually already makes, right? So peptides, we all make peptides already, right? All these peptides are already made in our body. We're just adding them, just like a supplement. We're just adding them into our bodies and increasing the amounts. Same with GLP-1s. So these are the famous drugs that are just a longer lasting copy of what is in our system. That is all Ozempic is. It's a copy of your hormone that you already have. So your natural GLP-1, what it does, it tells your pancreas to release insulin, but only when your sugar is actually high. So it rarely drops you too low. It slows how fast food leaves your stomach so you feel fuller for longer, right? And it tells your brain you are satisfied, that this is quieting the food noise that people talk about a lot. It turns down glucagon, and that is the hormone that pushes blood sugar up. The simplest way to understand single and double and triple is like thinking of it of different engines. And I'm going to get into this. So single is Ozempic, right? Like arguably the most famous one. This is a semaglutide peptide. It is a single engine. It is a GLP-1 only. Tirzepatide can be Mounjaro, Zepbound, and this is a double engine. This is a GLP-1 plus a second gut signal called GIP, and it's usually stronger on appetite and sugar. Then the next one we have is retatrutide, and retatrutide is the triple engine. It's the GLP-1 plus the GIP plus glucagon, and that third one revs up metabolism and fat burning. It's the newest and strongest in trials, still investigational. However, it's pretty remarkable what it does for fat loss and body composition. So how this all kind of plays in here. So dosing, I'll just talk about dosing before we get into that. Semaglutide, you can start at 0.25 milligrams per week and work up to 0.5 to 2.4. Tirzepatide is you starting at 2.5 milligrams per week, and you can work up to 5 to 15 milligrams. Retatrutide is very interesting, the GLP-3. I think it's in phase 2 clinical trials, and you can run 1 to 12 milligrams per week, microdosing to start. I have tried retatrutide, and I tried it because one of the companies that I work with sent me a bottle, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I was microdosing it at 0.5 milligrams per week. And I think it did make a difference in terms of fat loss and body composition. But I was literally less than what this recommendation is. I was half of that. I was 0.5 milligrams because I'm already lean and it's not something that I need to really worry about or overcompensate for right now. I will say, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about trying retatrutide, arguably right now is the time to do it, because the moment it clears, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials, Eli Lilly takes it on and turns it into whatever they're going to call it, like semaglutide is Ozempic, whatever they're going to name it, whatever brand name they're going to give it. The price is going to triple or quadruple of what it is right now. So just know that a year from now, you could be looking at spending, I don't know, $500, $600 on a bottle that lasts a month. And right now, I think it's like 100, 150. And I'm not saying go ahead and buy it just because the price is low. I'm just saying keep that in mind. The more information, the more legalized all of this becomes, the more studies, the more expensive it is. Also, by the way, just to on this random tangent, you could buy it right now and you could keep it in your fridge for a year, unconstituted, right? So you haven't added any bacteriostatic water, and that powder can last anywhere between a year to 2 years in the fridge. So you could just keep it and then take it when you feel like it's time for you to take it. That's probably what I would do. And it's probably actually what I should do, is I should probably stock some of it before the price goes up, because it just makes sense. So these are all the GLPs. Not everyone, so many people are on them. There's so many benefits to them. That's not the point of this episode. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding, no. It's pretty much a hard no. I'm lenient, or I'm very woman individualized, personalized focus for a lot of peptides for when women are breastfeeding. However, when it comes to things like the GLPs, I just think that they are so strong and so powerful. I don't think it makes sense to be taking it while you're breastfeeding. Yeah. For something like PMOS, or, I keep saying PCOS because that's what it used to be called. This can be rooted, and most likely is rooted in high insulin. So a GLP-1 can be a real game changer here because it lowers insulin and weight at the source. And that's same with diabetes, right? Like it lowers the insulin. Same with prediabetes. If you get your test back and your insulin is very high, the GLPs can lower that. And that's what we want. However, like always, when we talk about GLPs, you have to understand that they can strip muscle along with fat. And muscle is the very tissue that keeps your blood sugar steady long term. So on a GLP, you must eat enough protein, you must lift weights, you must work out, or you sabotage your metabolism long term. So I hate that. And not that I hate that. It's great that people are getting results on these, but it's very worrisome when we talk about longevity, metabolism, and cellular health and these different things long term, because it is causing people to lose muscle and strength, and you need that long term. It can also cause nausea and facial fat loss for some people, right? It's called Ozempic face. So the free version, you can nudge your own GLP-1 in your body by increasing your protein, fiber, and fermented foods. Obviously, it's not as strong, but it costs you nothing. And I do want to say, just so you know, on the nausea front, even though I was microdosing Retta at 0.5 milligrams or 500 micrograms, I had nausea from it. It wasn't severe, but it was like once or twice a week. I would notice this little feeling of feeling nauseous, especially in the first month. And that's how I felt when I was pregnant. So I very much know that feeling from first trimester. The next peptides here are MOTS-C. MOTS-C. This is the peptide that your mitochondria make. It flips on the cellular switch called AMPK. It improves insulin sensitivity and it gives you real workout energy, no appetite drug involved. Dosing is 5 to 10 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a week. Mornings, great before training. This one moves sugar in the right direction, and I love it for that. I did a full MOTS-C protocol in the spring, and it was incredible. I loved it. When in the fall, I decided to take the summer off. With peptides, you have to have a level of discernment. You can't just be on a peptide for forever and think that you're going to continue to get benefits from it, because that's not how it works, right? You have to cycle on and off. You have to listen to your body. I felt like I got the most from MOTS-C. I think I actually did it for about 10 to 12 weeks. A lot of the time, people only do it for 8 weeks. And then I was like, I'm good. I'm ready to take a break. But, in the fall, I will be doing probably another round of it. And for women who don't want to touch any of the GLPs, helps with energy and helps with mitochondria and metabolism. So you're getting a lot out of it. And yeah, I just think it's one of the great ones. Other ones that can kind of like help as well is obviously BPC 157. This is a gut and tissue healer. Healthier gut supports a healthier metabolism. It means that you're going to be getting more nutrients from your food, which is really great. I'm taking BPC 157 right now, morning and night. I'm doing the minimum dose and I'm doing 250 milligrams or micrograms a day, obviously. Okay, so anything else that I want to talk about here? This was a lot, and I know this is a very long episode, coming up to 2 hours, and I just really want to reiterate that this is so important that we look at the full picture here. Blood sugar impacts every single woman that is listening to this episode. There is so much that you can do to manage it. And to be honest, like, blood sugar is something that you have to manage your entire life. Like, you can't just hack it and be done with it, right? Like, and as your hormones change as well, like as you go through perimenopause and menopause, like your tactics have to change. And so you have to have a level of knowledge and understanding of your body and how it all works. If you can manage a healthy blood sugar for your life, arguably, like, you're pretty much set, right? Because think of all the things that you're doing to manage that are then increasing your longevity, reducing how you're aging, like how you even look how you're aging, but also how you're aging on a cellular level, stress management, exercise, everything, right? So, arguably, like, you could just focus on blood sugar and that's it and kind of be done, because it literally impacts everything and everything impacts it, right? So it's huge. That's why this episode is so robust, because there's so much to say. It is measurable, which is awesome, right? And you might hear that and think, oh, of course it's measurable. But actually, no, like, there are certain things we still can't measure in the body. And one of them is like mitochondrial health. We don't really have a good test right now that says, oh, your mitochondria is low per cell, like you need to increase it. That's something that we don't have in science right now. But we have this. So you can do your fasting glucose, fasting insulin, HbA1c, and everything, all the other blood biomarkers that I mentioned. If you're going to do anything, get your labs done. You guys know I just talked about it. I told you where to get it. It's worth the investment. Supplement, like I said, that's probably the smartest play out of the supplement category. I would think about your exercise and your fitness and how that's all playing in. Are you walking after meals? Are you lifting throughout the week? And then I would, of course, look at your nutrition, adding fat and protein to every single meal, delaying when you have the carbs, having them last, and making sure you're not having any naked carbs as we're saying it. Bring in some peptides that work for you. Like, honestly, if I was going to do any for blood sugar, I would probably do, it depends what your other goals are, but, obviously it probably makes sense to try to do the MOTS-C, just because it doesn't change and doesn't raise the blood glucose levels. And I would probably add a GLP-1 in, or GLP, one of them, depending on what your goals are and if body composition is a big thing for you. Out of all of the GLPs, I would probably just go straight to retatrutide. I wouldn't mess around with the other ones, the GLP-1 and the GIP and the glucagon. And I think that's really important for metabolism and fat burning. But remember, like I said, you have to be strength training and having enough protein so it doesn't strip away your muscle. Very, very important. And being aware of doing all of that. Now, if you want to work with me, you can. I see women every single day, like literally every single day. I jump on my Zoom calls with women all over the world, by the way. I sit down with them, we do everything together, and I'm here to help you. Like, literally, I'm here to help you. So, next week, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, part of me wants to do a full episode on GLPs because I feel like it's confusing and yeah, I think we just really need to unpack it and understand how it all works. And that could be really helpful for people. I'm also going to do an episode on menopause and PMOS. And those are probably the next ones that are coming out this month. So please like, subscribe, listen, follow me on Instagram at biohackingbrittany. I'd love to have you there. Let me know. Everything will be in the show notes and is on my website for you to find easily. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.